You know, Gross is he's like the evil Mario of death. He's just like, it's me, Mario. Yosh! Little bit of an impromptu AOT video, but I felt that the concept of this video was good enough to merit it, as I've been getting tons of messages from fans of the channel asking me to read certain chapters of AOT before, starting my regular manga coverage at chapter 117. Well, this video came out a little late. And while I've already completed around 3 of those videos, we can still go back and check out some of these chapters you guys wanted for me to check out. If there are any chapters you guys want me to do videos on in the future, then do be sure to comment them below. So with all of that being said, today we're going to be talking about the Kruger chapters 87 through 89, as recommended to me on Twitter by Itachi Kacho, and as well chapters 115 and 116 recommended by the aforementioned, and as well I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, Oshino Sismo as well. There is one major difference in 116, by the way, that wasn't covered in episode 16 of the final season, so that's going to be a big thing. You don't want to miss it. We'll cover it in the last half of the video. So with that out of the way, let's discuss chapters 87 through 89, and remember to subscribe and ring the bell so that you don't miss my weekly AOT videos covering the manga and the future series that I will cover afterwards. Let's go. So starting off with chapter 87, this was a pretty good chapter. I mean, I've already seen the anime adaptation of this, mind you, but this was like pretty much right before I dropped the manga, like 5 or 6 years ago. I think the last chapter of the manga that I read before I dropped it way back when was chapter 74. So going to chapter 87, it's not that much after chapter 74. And well, I wish I never dropped it. I was kind of an idiot. I think I tweeted that out on Twitter, that I was being a real big old Dumbo for dropping Attack on Titan, because I was so close to getting to the really good bits of Attack on Titan. So the first thing that I noticed was that Grisha's original plan was to null the Marley and Titan powers. I think it's a little interesting. We'll just say that. Also, it is surprising how cold Gross is. I'm gonna call him Evil Mario. Like this guy, he just shows up and he's like, "It's me, Mario." He's just so evil. Like, he has like no empathy or just any human concern for any of these people. He believes that all of these people are like not even human, which is crazy, but not outside of the realm of believability, I think, just for the simple fact that a whole nation is kind of racist against the Eldians and really wants them to die. I got chills when Eren realizes that the person Eren kills in the earlier chapters, the big titan that killed Hannes, was actually Dinah, Grisha's former wife, widowed Dinah Titan, and you had the split panels of Grisha and Eren together. Thought that was really cool. And that's the one thing I noticed about the manga so far, is that the manga in a lot of these moments really just kind of hit different, I think that's one advantage that the manga has over the anime, is the anime, you see it, you experience it, whereas the manga, you're reading it, you're more engaging with it, you're filling in the gaps in your heads. And what's funny to me is that Gross, or Evil Mario, he is like the hipster of death. It's like one of those, it's like when you go into a Starbucks and you see a hipster or whatever. He's like the same way, except it's with death. Like, he goes on about how, like, yeah, when I accepted death and all that it meant, I became enlightened. I became a better person. It's just like this ridiculous stuff. It's actually hilarious. But the cool thing I like about this next part is Grisha talks about how they're rewriting history, Marley is. And I think that's a reminder of what Marley is truly doing at the end of the day and what Grisha was fighting for, because I think in these later chapters of AOT, we're too focused on all these sides of this, who's good, who's bad, everybody's bad. But at the end of the day, we haven't really went back to what is the start of all of this? And I think that's kind of sobering in a story perspective. I like how Grisha talks about how Ymir used her powers to till the lands, create bridges and mountains, and make the land basically prosper and all of its people prosper. The coolest twist of this chapter, obviously, is Kruger saving Grisha. Chapter 88 gets a lot cooler though. There are some really nice details like how Grisha became a doctor because of what Kruger was saying about how efficient doctors are and of getting information and becoming reliable. And they're really great spies apparently, which I thought was a really cool, neat little touch hidden there in the tea leaves a little bit. Another cool thing was how Grisha realizes how much of a terrible person he was, how much a terrible husband, father, just a terrible man in general. When we discuss later chapters and later episodes of AOT, or even earlier stuff even, I think that's something we all should remember is this moment. Because as we saw before, Zeke really hates Grisha and thinks plenty bad things about him. But at this point, it seems like Grisha, because of losing everything, finally realizes the most important thing he should have realized all along, and that is he's just a bad man. Talking a little bit about like butterfly effect kind of stuff. It's almost important that Grisha lost his sister and that he went outside the wall and lost Dinah and lost the restorationist project, because in a way, all of these things that happened to him, it serves to motivate Grisha even more in his goals of what he's trying to do. Yeah, in the moment, in the short term, he may seem like he wants to give up, but at the end of the day, this is actually really important for Grisha to experience these things because it gives him levity, it grounds him down. I like a quote from Kruger though. Kruger is like a really cool character. I wish we could see so much more of Kruger, just his whole life, what he did and all that. Even though we got an idea he doesn't do much besides kill his fellow people, which is very sad. But it would just be cool to see more about Kruger, maybe an extra OVA episode about him or something. But he says, the quote specifically is, "I'm just looking out into the world from a crack in a closet door." And that to me says a lot of things, but it says one thing. Oh, knocking stuff over. It says one important thing, and that is that Kruger hasn't really changed much from that time he was as a kid. For a lot of people, that may seem like a bad thing. It means he's a very static person. In terms of a character, he's a static character. But actually, what I find cool about that is he didn't change. He is still the same person he always was. He talks about how he has doubts that he is a different person, that he's changed, that he doesn't have the same thing within him. I think he does because of this quote. I mean, it calls back to the time where he had his own stepping out of the walls moment, like Grisha had. The moment that happened, it forever changed his life. And in my opinion, while it was a very hard and miserable life for Kruger, for the overall goal of what's happening, Kruger is in a very important role in all this, a very important character. Yes, he did nothing throughout his lifespan of 13 years as the Attack Titan, but in the same vein, he was able to give Grisha the Attack Titan, who went on to do amazing things. So I think this quote here just really expresses how much Kruger didn't waste his time and is still the same person he's always been. He's still the little boy in the closet watching his whole family be burned alive, which is a really sad thing. But it's something that is a beautiful line to close out Kruger's character, even though we don't see much of him. Also, cool little tidbits. The subject of Ymir are connected by something invisible, some invisible force, like paths. This really reminds me of like how the universe is connected by this dark matter, this thing we don't understand, that we can't see, that science can't explain, our current known science. And I feel like that's kind of like the same thing. It's very almost mystical in that sense. And it's the same thing with Titans. It's just a mystical thing. You don't understand it truly. It just is what it is. It happened and it's going to continue happening, and you can't stop it until someone decides to stop it. Also, like how the real truth behind Ymir, she's not the pawn of a devil. She's just a really good figure in history. Also, another one is Dinah. Hates to say this, but she kind of died for her own good. I'm of the beliefs that Dinah is like a really cool character. I really like Dinah, even though she really didn't do much. Maybe it's because I'm just a fan of MILFs or whatever. But I really like Dinah's character, and I like her involvement in this story, even though for a vast majority of it, she is just a Titan that eventually gets killed by Eren, and she died for her own good, because if she stayed alive, they would have came for her and basically used her as kind of like a farm in many ways, like a farming system for more Titans, which is an incredibly dark thought. I don't want to give that much thought because it's actually very sad. The end of the chapter, though, I like the whole, like, realization that because Grisha went past the walls, he has to carry the torch forward. He talks about how he doesn't want to do any of this, and he's all out of hatred, all out of whatever. He's just done. He doesn't want to do anything, you know, like kill him now. He doesn't got anything left. I like how Kruger says, well, that's enough to do this mission. But I like how Kruger says, like, because you made that decision to go past the wall, you are owed these people that came before you to go through with this. You are one of the few people that have been lucky enough to make it past that wall. And since you made it past that wall, you have now signed an irrevocable contract that forces you on this path. Because if you don't do it, you're a coward and you are not the person you say you are. I love that. I love that kind of stuff. Then finally, for chapter 89, there's actually not much that I really want to discuss here other than a bunch of character moments. I'll cover this stuff later when I go back and talk about the animes and stuff, so I want to keep all my thoughts really for when I do that. But some stuff I want to mention here is Levi is a total asshole to Eren and Hanj, like how he says Eren is going through a phase, and Eren at one point is just like, why the hell are you even here? And Hanj is... this is Hanj. Says that interacting with Hanj is like 10 days of punishment, which is totally not the truth. I would love to spend, 10 minutes with Hanj, let alone 10 days. That'd be amazing. Hanj is just, she's great. She would be very good at board games. You know she would. Mikasa, on the other hand, she looks terrible. This is always hilarious to bring up because Mikasa is such a, I don't want to say a one-note character, but she kind of fits one role right now in the story, and that is just to be a badass that says Eren a lot. And so seeing her with like bedhead, just looking awful, and as well just seemed like she lost a bunch of weight. It's just kind of funny. I also like Ymir's backstory. I can't remember if we actually got the full thing in the anime. I know we got a little bit of it at the very least. So put down in the comments below because it's been about 6 or so months since I watched season 3. But I like this backstory with Ymir because she was kind of used as a person to be worshipped by, and eventually when that all kind of backfired, she still tried to pretend she was Ymir, and I think that in a sense was really sweet of her, but at the same time, what happened to Ymir is actually crazy. And I wonder what Attack on Titan would be like if Ymir didn't go with Bertolt and Reiner. Because if not, I mean, you don't get the epicness of Peak. So in that sense, it's kind of sad. But that's kind of it for chapters 87 through 89. We're going to switch over to 115 and 116 just here in a second. This is a little bit of a long video, I understand already. Well, as I say that, there's nothing else to mention about these chapters. Of course, you have to mention Kruger bringing up Mikasa, Armin, those names that obviously Kruger doesn't know. These are, of course, very important. So keep this scene in mind. Keep this scene in mind. It will explain a lot in the later coming chapters. So stick with me or come back later. Even though when we're gonna talk about 115 and 116, it's not gonna be that long. But even then, if you need a break, take a break. These chapters were amazing. I always loved these episodes in the anime anyways, just because I thought it was a really awesome conclusion to the, massive revelation that is what's really going on in the world of AOT. So it was a really great way to end a twist arc. In my opinion, it's one of the coolest arcs in AOT, at least from an anime standpoint. Now, obviously, I'm just reading the last bits of the manga, and I know the manga is very different in many respects in the way it reads and the way it's paced, so there will be differences there, but I loved it, and I want to thank the people on Twitter who recommended me read these again, because these were great. It shined a lot of light on some of the chapters that are going to come after the final season part 1. And I'll leave it at that because I'm aiming for this video to be spoiler free. With that out of the way, let's get to 115 and 116, which at this point you should probably click away, not watch the rest of this video, because it contains spoilers for what will happen in final season part 2. So yeah, click off now if you haven't already. So the big thing about chapter 115 is pretty much that Levi may be dead. I talked about this in my episode 16 video where I was like, I think Levi's gonna die soon. Something about the way that it's been presented to us, I don't know, it just feels like Levi's time amongst the living isn't, has run its limits, we'll say. And yeah, it's an Ackerman, you can't kill Ackermans, but I really do believe in some sense that Levi has died. I will say though, I don't think he's died in this chapter because, so Hanj, they find him in this field. It's the same rainy nights where they find Zeke, which by the way, that's the other big thing that they didn't put in the last episode, was that Zeke is alive. He was put into the stomach. He saw the little girl. Hanj says, you know, he suffered from an explosion from the Thunder Spear at point blank range. If anyone is in the vicinity of that happening, it basically shreds all their organs and they die almost instantly. The thing that makes me think that he's still alive is that Flock goes, hey, let me take a look. I can check his pulse. And as soon as that happens, Zeke comes out of the Titan that was, you know, that put him in his stomach. So to me, this says that Levi is still alive. I don't know. It doesn't put much faith into me that he will remain alive, of course, but, you know, it's just my theories on it. Of course, there's also the scene with Zeke and this little girl healing his body. I wonder who that little girl is. We don't know quite yet. Yeah, we don't know who that is quite yet, so we'll just have to see. Of course, it seems like Historia is going to suffer from the same fate that Dinah was to suffer from until Kruger allowed her to die. So lots of stuff coming in from chapters 89 or 87 through 89, which I think that's why people told me to read that, is because of that very thing. So yeah, these chapters were pretty good. There's not much else that has changed. It's just really those two little tidbits. Once again, Peak is amazing, just pointing at Aaron, saying there is the enemy. These were some great chapters, of course. I really enjoyed reading them. Overall, this was a pretty good exercise in just going back and getting back into the story. Tell me what you guys thought about the video. If you enjoyed it, if you hate it, leave a like. I have a Patreon, I got channel memberships, and you can join my Discord server when that opens back up in the future. And you'll get access to all the extra members content that only they get access to. I appreciate you all watching, and I'll see you on the next AOT video. Bye-bye.